For over 27 years here in Tuscaloosa, Catfish Heaven has been pleasing our taste buds with their delicious catfish, pan trout, hot wings, coleslaw, hush puppies, and don't forget about those made-to-order French fries. Whether it's your snack time, lunchtime, or dinner time, give the guys a call over at Catfish Heaven at 205-752-7222, or you can make your order online at catfishheaventuscaloosa.com. So head on over to Catfish Heaven at 2502 21st Street. See you there.
Head on down to Archibald and Woodrow, some of the best barbecue in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, y'all. Right off of 4125 Greensboro Avenue, Tuscaloosa, Alabama 35405. You can hit them up at 205-331-4858. Also, you can find them at their other location, 1211 Martin Luther King Boulevard, Northport, Alabama 35476, 205-345-6861.
Tastes so good, make you want to slap your mama.
Fly, fly, fly. Scoochie, huh? I drink till I'm drunk.
Fellas, head on down to New Generation Barber Shop, right off of 2600 McFarland Boulevard East, Suite C. Go ahead and get you a fly cut from my boy Fred Brown. You can hit him up at 205-292-4995. Also Sam Brown at 205-722-8506. And how can I forget about my boy Amp the Barber? Hit him up at 205-561-7473. Check him out, y'all.
Pick, I might as well hell. Drop the top and take a selfie, Marco.
You shopping at a goddamn number 2 pencil.
Hello? Hey, Rick. I had to call you to tell you that the food that you brought to the party last night was wonderful. It made me think about my grandmother's cooking. Where did you get that food, brother?
I went down to Thomas Rib Shack to pick up the ribs, but when I got there, I seen that they had more than just ribs. I seen baked chicken, fried chicken, corn muffins, vegetables, apple pie, peach pie, and I looked around and I seen a sign that told me that they got chitlins and oxtails on Sunday. Oh. All I can tell you, go down to 2931 15th Street or just give them a call like I did at area code 205-759-5010. Thomas Rib Shack, Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Fish Fry, Friday, September 10th, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Fish Fry. Come and get your whitening fish plate for only $8.50 with your choice of 2 sides, baked beans, potato salad, or French fries. Got a taste for another side? Only $1.50. You got a sweet tooth? We got you covered. A nice slice of cake for only $3. New Kingdom Baptist Church, Tuscaloosa at 2915 17th Street, Tuscaloosa. Call ahead, orders all welcome. 205-730-5718. Fish Fry, New Kingdom Baptist Church, Friday, September the 10th, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. See you there.
Can't nobody do me like you, Jesus. Can't nobody
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to another episode of the all new T Town 411 Report. I'm your host, Darren Kinstry, along with my good friend Big Mike with Sound Booth Radio 106.1 and Sound Booth TV. Mike, tell them how they can chime in with you on Sound Booth Radio and Sound Booth TV.
Sure thing, Darren. To get in with us over here on Sound Booth Radio, just go to your iOS or your Google Play Store, download that Live 365 app. Once you've downloaded that app, then you go to the search bar and type in Sound Booth Radio 106.1. That'll get you on with us on the radio side. And to watch us on some of our shows, go to YouTube and type in Sound Booth Radio. That'll get you on with us on Sound Booth TV. Of course, also you can watch us here on Facebook Live as well under the same name, Sound Booth TV.
Well, Mike, I want to thank you for all what you do with you and Carmelo, both of you, for hosting and co-hosting the T-Town 411 Report. And it's been very, very helpful throughout the process of doing this. Want to go ahead and recognize our COVID-19 update from Veronica Taylor. As of today, DCHS system internal count as of 2:06 p.m. And this is from yesterday, I'm sorry. But as of yesterday, 162 inpatients within the DCA system are positive for COVID-19, 39 inpatients positive for COVID-19 being treated in ICU, 31 inpatients positive for COVID-19 on ventilators, 13 inpatients positive for COVID-19 on BiPAP, and those in the hospital, 27, which is 16.7, are fully vaccinated, while 135, 83.3, are not vaccinated or partially vaccinated. Of those in ICU are fully vaccinated, while 34, of those in ICU, 5 are fully vaccinated, while 34 are not vaccinated or partially vaccinated. Let me just say a special prayer right quick, Mike. I want to say thank you, Lord. Thank you for this opportunity to share this information. Thank you for the doctors, the nurses, and all the essential workers right now. Heavenly Father, right now, I want to send out a special prayer for the Duncan family. And we want to ask that you look over our families as they go through these bereavement families, as they go through the bereavement situations right now. Heavenly Father, we're saying thank you for our friend James Duncan, who came through with us while here on earth. We want to thank you for all the ones that are in the hospital right now that you are looking over and healing. In your son, Jesus Christ's name, we pray, amen.
Amen.
Mike, we lost another good friend of mine, man. It wasn't quite COVID related, but a friend of mine passed this past weekend, and it was very disturbing. You know how you can just say, "Hey, I just talked to this person," and the next thing you know, you're hearing they passed away. Same thing. I want to send a special prayer to the Jones, Marvin Jones too, family.
I want to get one in also, Daryl. A friend of mine that's been knowing him for many, many years. He passed away. He's come to his COVID on Saturday. He was deacon over at gosh, I can't think of the name of the church now. Over to Pastor Cherry church, Hightown church, and he passed away on Saturday. Daryl Norfleet. So want to send prayers out to him and his family.
Yes.
I think he gonna be laid to rest on this coming Saturday at Memorial Chapel at 11 o'clock. For those of y'all who might know Daryl Norfleet and want to pay your last respects. So
I knew Daryl. I knew his wife both. Yes. Daryl one time was interested in being a police officer. So yeah, I know Daryl really well.
Yeah. He's like 48 years old, y'all. He's 48.
Young gentleman. And you said was COVID related or wasn't?
It was COVID. He had COVID.
Okay.
Did not receive the vaccination.
Fleetwood Sanders say pray for Jay Hammer and Avea Hollywood, who both are sick, from my understanding. They both were at the festival this weekend. I want to say a special prayer for them. Also, Avea Hollywood and Jay Hammer. They were performers that were on the festival. And we just want to make sure we say a special prayer for them. Mike, this past weekend, we had a incident that took place here locally. Domestic violence related, pretty much. A young lady been charged with capital murder and I think attempted murder of a child, from my understanding. And it just came to me. He said, Daryl, you got to refresh the memory. We got to refresh the memory of people about things. And the things, what I'm talking about, hey, I used to come up with topics that, we don't want to talk about, which is funerals and life insurance policies and sicknesses and going to the doctor and financial obligations and how to handle them. I got to get back to it. It's time to rotate that back in, because now domestic violence, due to COVID-19, there's been a series of a lot of domestic violence. People been shut in and stuff, and I guess you can say afraid to talk about this or even report it. I just found I was looking through YouTube and I found a commercial. I don't know if Mello has it available yet, that he could play it for us right quick before we get into the concept about it. And also after this, I would like for him to put up the number so people can call in, because we want to give people the resources that they need if they're involved in domestic violence situation or sexual assault. We want people to have access to resources that they can. Okay, he says not ready yet. That they can reach out to. And this is men, women, and all sorts of. Let's put it this way: women are not the only victims of domestic violence. There are men that are victims. There are men that are victims. There's the LGBTQ community that are victimized to domestic violence. There's all sorts of domestic violence from young to old, and we got to put it out there. We got to start looking at. I guess one question, I was looking for the particular radio advertising. You remember the one that used to come on, like you might hear early in the morning, they'll come on, Larry, you gonna do something about that ain't our problem. Yeah, domestic violence is everybody's problem.
Yes.
And what I'm saying is we can't turn a deaf ear to domestic violence. And I know it's sometimes people feel that I don't want to get involved. That's their business. That's their household business. If they wanted something, if she wanted something to do, or if he wanted somebody to do something about it, then they would call the police and get more involved. But I really got a presentation. I used to be a domestic violence investigator, and I really have a presentation, but I wasn't able to get it transferred from my iPad to Camelo, and not my iPad, my thumb drive to Camelo today. But I might be able to do it, because we're gonna talk about that today and Thursday. We're gonna talk about domestic violence today and Thursday. It is beginning to be not only one of our silent killers, as COVID is ranked in the top 5 right now, if you ask me. The domestic violence relationships or situations are beginning to not just be assault, it's beginning to be a death ticket. We're seeing more and more men and women now being terminated I guess the word would be terminated, killed, murdered, whatever you want to call. And we just got to talk about it more. Now, the reason I wanted to put the number up is because hopefully this conversation will reach someone that want to remain anonymous, that wants to reach out for help, someone that wants to help another family member or a friend that is going through domestic violence. We do have a domestic violence resources that we can, organizations here in Tuscaloosa, that I do have numbers available, and that we can turn them over to them. Turning Point here locally in Tuscaloosa is one of the outreach companies that can help men and women for us dealing with domestic violence. We're reading more and more and more and more each and every day that a woman or a man is being killed behind domestic violence. We got to do more. We can do more. And that's what I'm going to do this week. I just want to bring this. I want to bring this up and bring it out to the people. I'm gonna see, can I find the article that I'm making reference to. A lot of people already know the article I'm making reference to. I didn't know the family, but it was, like I said, it was put on my mind and on my heart to say, hey, Daryl, you got to do a refresher. We got to remind people that domestic violence still exists and that it still need to be addressed. I'm looking for the article right quick.
While you're looking for that, Daryl, I'd like to say that the one thing that you said that rings so true, and I've actually heard people say it. If you see a couple, be it male and female, two males, two females, whatever, if they were in a domestic type situation, a domestic type fight, instead of you calling the law or trying to break it up before something drastic happens, the first thing that a lot of us say is that, saying, dang, I can't believe they doing that out here. You ought to take that somewhere else. You ought to take that somewhere else. They ought to go somewhere else with that. She ain't my business, but I wouldn't stay with him. Or I wouldn't take that if I was them. Everything other than calling some sort of official to come and help out in that situation to kind of stop that. It would be my fear to see something like that. And later on that day, somebody wind up not in this world, and I could have stopped it. That's one of my biggest fears. I think we all need to have some sort of thought like that when it comes down to it. Because very often, no matter how many times they did it before, very often it's one time that they go too far as far as a domestic situation goes. And that's male, female, however it goes. However you want to put it.
Here's an update. According to WBRC, authorities confirmed late Monday afternoon the 2-month-old baby wounded in a double shooting is in critical but stable condition. Tuscaloosa County Sheriff Deputy was called to a home in Holt on 20th Street Northeast Sunday morning. Investigators said there was Shana Henderson shot Willie Hayward Jr., who later died. Investigators confirmed the two were in a relationship. They accused Henderson of shooting Hayward while he was holding her 2-month-old baby during an argument. The neighbor told WBRC the double shooting has shaken many people in the neighborhood. I don't think you can comprehend nothing with that, especially with a baby being shot or hurt. How important do you think they determine why this happened? It is very important because I think that people would like to know what would cause something like this to happen. And that was reported on WBRC 6 News. Now, of course, we have other stories, but
Yeah, from what I understand, I don't know if they were in an active relationship or not, because they were saying that I think the guy who got shot actually had custody of the child.
Wow. Domestic violence is real. And a lot of time people say, why won't a person get out of the relationship? Why is it so hard to leave an individual or start over? Because you have many different reasons. You have financial obligations that some people are afraid to step out. Sometimes you're being intimidated by your other half. And then there's also the idea of just being alone. There's so many other different things. I wasn't sure who all. Okay. Carmelo said he has the video ready. Carmelo, let's just play it. Just a little small advertisement that I thought was a great advertisement for Mayor Wolfen up in
Birmingham.
In Birmingham, yes.
Hey everybody, it's Mayor Randall Woodfin. Listen, in times of adversity, it's so important we come together. Now we're experiencing a silent yet deadly crisis in our city. But it's not one caused by the coronavirus. It's domestic violence and sexual assault. Since the shelter-at-home order was issued, many more people have reached out for help due to domestic violence and sexual assault. Much too often, these are silent crimes. Victims of domestic violence and sexual assault must know that they are not alone. And so we encourage them to be sheltered and safe. If you find yourself in a dangerous situation, please seek help. If you know someone dealing with domestic violence and sexual assault, let them know that there is a place where they can go. Our social services network is ready to help. The YWCA's crisis line is open 24 hours a day. So please call 205-322-HURT. Again, that's 205-322-4878. When you're safe, we're all safe.
Just to say a little bit about Mayor Wolfen, he's down to earth, man. I like the guy. I like the direction he's taken Birmingham. And I see him more intact with reality of what's going on with people. But on another level, with dealing with this domestic violence, it's happening every day. It's happening every day, and it's starting to touch home. I know the name of the victim, but I'm not really sure. Do I know the person itself? But I just hate, the loss of any. In this situation, it's still a loss on both parties, the Henderson family and the Hayward family. So, once again, put up the number if you'd like to call in, you got something to say, or you'd like to be involved in this conversation. You can call us either 205-310-6067 or 205-826-7661. That'll get you in contact with either one of us. Phone lines are open now. You can, if you are a victim or, and here's something else you got to take in consideration too, Mike. I think there's a need for assistance with domestic violence perpetrators. We concentrate on the victim a lot, which is no problem with that. But let's think about it. Who addresses the perpetrator other than the criminal system? Okay, you get arrested. You got to wait 20. Here's the process. You get arrested for domestic violence. We just going to say domestic violence 3, which is a misdemeanor, harassment, something of that nature. you have to go in jail. It's mandated that you sit in jail for 24 hours. Once you get out of jail, those 24 hours, there's nothing but a court date set. There's no one or nothing that's addressing, correcting, or attempting to correct the individual that was the perpetrator. Let's say he could have been on drugs. Let's say he could have been an alcoholic. Let's say this been going on for a while. So I find it necessary, or I think it's necessary, if a person or persons get arrested for domestic violence and they release after their 24-hour release, they must go seek some kind of professional help, or seek some kind of let's address the was it alcohol, was it drugs, or was it just pure evilness? This, you know what I'm saying? I think that's something that we haven't been able to address to the people, the perpetrator getting help or attempting to get help. Once again, if you'd like to call in, 310-6067, 205-826-7661, to get you in on the conversation with us. I'm not, I don't really want to talk statistics, because we know the numbers are there. We know domestic violence happens daily, in moments, hourly. And I think we need, how you doing, Patricia? Thank you for chiming in. Everyone, thank everybody for chiming in tonight on the program. I appreciate it. In our conversation tonight, we're talking about domestic violence. We need a refresher on domestic violence, as far as we got to get more involved. If you know of a case of a scenario that's involved in domestic violence, we must do more. We cannot continue to turn our back and say, that's not my problem, or two, oh, why won't she leave, or why won't he leave? We want people to get more involved. You hear your neighbor being assaulted, male or female, or children, you need to call the police. Get something else ready real quick. Mike, but while we're on that conversation, of course, this weekend, this Labor Day weekend, they're looking for a spike in the numbers. And some of the schools, from my understanding, the schools canceled the football game on this past Friday. But there again, I think we've said it. Everybody seems to understand the country is no longer will shut down anymore. That's not going to happen. You have the option now to get vaccinated or not. And based on those numbers, I read out, and I want to make sure I read them correctly. 162 people were inpatients at DCH. 162. Daniel Van Horn said, what's the definition of domestic violence? Because now you have same-sex couple that are being abused or intimidated. And we included that, Daniel. I'm glad you brought that up, because right now, as we say, transgender and same-sex relationships, it includes everybody. Right now, domestic violence, I mean, I can give you an overall book on the Alabama law definition. One minute. And this is found in your Title 13 code book. Domestic violence, third degree. A person commits domestic violence in the third degree if the person commits the crime of assault in the third degree, the crime of menacing, the crime of reckless endangerment, the crime of criminal coercion, the crime of harassment, the crime of criminal surveillance, the crime of harassing communication, the crime of criminal trespass in the third degree, the crime of criminal mischief in the second or third degree, or the crime of arson in the third degree, and the victim is a current or former spouse, parent, step-parent, child, stepchild, any person with whom the defendant has a child in common, a present household member, or a person who has or had a dating relationship with the defendant. For this purpose of this section, a household member excludes non-romantic or non-intimate co-residents, and a dating relationship means a current or former relationship of a romantic or intimate nature characterized by expectation of affectionate or sexual involvement by either party. Domestic violence in the third degree is a misdemeanor. The minimum term of imprisonment under this subsection is 30 days without consideration of reduction in time if a defendant willfully violates a protection order issued by a court of competent jurisdiction and in the process of violating the order commits domestic violence in the third degree. In a Class A misdemeanor, except defendant shall serve a minimum term of imprisonment of 10 days in a city or county or detention facility without consideration for any reduction in time. 10 days in jail. So, reading that, the law gave you a list of acts of crimes that can be considered domestic violence in the third degree: assault, harassment communication, criminal coercion. Criminal coercion is threatening someone. That is a source of threatening someone, saying, I'm going to kill you, and has the capabilities of doing it. Reckless endangerment, pulling a knife or a gun on him and pointing at someone. All of that is part of it. You and your wife, or you and your girlfriend in an argument, or you and your boyfriend, or two women or two men, whatever your sexual preference is, in an argument, and one pulls a gun, even though the gun might not be loaded, and you point it at the subject. That is reckless endangerment. Attempting to run over a person in a car, that's reckless endangerment. Calling on texting on Facebook, harassing communication. Those are forms of harassing communication. Threatening by phone or by email, harassing communication. These are all signs of domestic violence in the third degree that a person can be charged with. And as it's described in law, it described itself, and it was determined to let you know about who a household member excludes non-romantic or non-intimate co-residents. But it did let you know, in other words, a victim is a current former spouse. So in other words, your ex-wife, parent, step-parent. So you and your child can be in a domestic violence situation. And a person with whom the defendant has a child in common. Yeah, the baby mama drama or the baby daddy drama is a domestic violence situation. So those are that is a clear-cut definition of domestic violence in the third degree. Harassment is when someone pushes you, or y'all someone gets slapped. And a slap is not necessarily assault. A slap could be harassment also. Pushing and shoving, kicking, harassment. Even though it calls bruise, unless it causes a bodily harm of some sort, is to the point when it moves up to another segment of domestic violence. Once again, if you'd like to join this conversation, 310-205, 310 6067 or 205-826-7661. You know, we don't like to talk about it because one of us that's on here might be a victim of domestic violence, or we might have family members or friends that were victims of domestic violence. My very first call as a police officer was one of a domestic violence call to my own relatives, you know. And here's the reason I say we need to evaluate the perpetrator, because he was drunk, but no one wanted to address the alcohol issue. He went to jail, judge fined him or whatever they did, right back out, they right back together. But every situation won't be like that. You have some situations where death occurs, and that's what we want to prevent. Veronica say, homie, lover, friend. Veronica, come on, you can join the conversation. We ain't gonna keep everybody long. You know, things that we need to talk about or should be talking about. Of course, we don't want to join the conversation about that. Not reference to you. I'm just saying people don't want to hear about it. This is something that I find to be very, very, very important. And it's not happening just in other cities and counties. This is happening right here in our very own city, right here in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. So the question is the evaluation of the state of the mind of that person this past weekend. Who's going to evaluate that? She's being charged with capital murder, Mike. Capital murder. Do we know why? I guess you still can hear me, Mike. Go ahead, caller.
Hey, I did say.
I got you. I'm
Hello?
sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I did say anybody home lover, because basically it is anybody. Anybody that you know, you may not. It may be in passing. You know, and that may not quite count for domestic because you could be strangers. But anybody you kind of know of and have any type of relationship with to me, you know, seems to most likely or most possibly be a domestic violence case. And I just think some people have never called the police over the years. They've always said, no, they're not going to get in because they'll be right back together, or they do this all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But another aspect to it now is that some people are truly afraid to call the police, because when the police arrive on the scene, some police don't go for the right person, and things happen sometimes. So with today's environment, sometimes people are just more afraid to call the police than not to call the police. So it's a lot of different reasons, I guess you could say. You know, the same ones, people don't want to get involved. They'll be back together, then they'll end up hating me. If they find out I'm the one that called, I don't want to have any problems with them. You know, then they don't want to be the ones to call the police, and then something goes awry. You know, it's just a lot of different reasons. And then a lot of times domestic violence is also the mental aspect, you know, as far as why. Like you said, if they're going to get mental health treatment, drug treatment, or they're just going to put them in jail. I guess we can go on maybe what's happened in the past as far as punishment, as to what needs to be changed or what needs to be revisited and done a different way.
I'm researching. I understood they charged her, but I think I'm seeing it. But I guess they may have to go back and relook at it. I was wondering why they did charge her for capital murder, murder by the defendant in the
Because
presence,
it was in the presence of the child, I think,
presence of a child under the age of
under
14 years.
12 or 14.
Yes, 14 years at the time of the offense. If the victim was the parent or legal guardian of the child. For purposes of this subsection, in the presence of a child means in the physical presence of a child or having knowledge that a child is present and may see or hear the act. That is why she's being charged with capital murder in this
Daryl,
particular
can you hear me?
I hear you now. Uh-huh.
Okay, all right. Yeah, because we can communicate it first. The question that I have is when we start talking about taking someone in of a domestic violence situation, and then they spend 24 hours in jail, like you say, and then they get there and come out, they're going right back to the same house. Wouldn't it be something that should be said that they have to be separated until at least the court date or something like that, just to kind of eliminate all of that? Because most times the victim don't ever go to the court date.
True. Sometimes victims don't come to court, which don't help the case scenario, because at that point in time, the relationship is in the honeymoon stage again. You know, it's like, hey, I'm sorry. Let's make up. Don't come and testify in court. They'll drop the charges. You know, those are some of the things that are always said or can be said. Daniel Van Horn said, I have seen situations in Tuscaloosa where the victim calls the police and they said they can't come out because he hasn't done anything and the victim is dead. So how do they address restraining orders? There's a process of restraining orders, and the county issues restraining order. The court issues what they call a protection from abuse order. The protection from abuse order is probably what everyone will probably want to try first. I think the court tries to have everybody in court as soon as possible. But the protection from abuse order is a opportunity to tell your side of the story, and the victim or the perpetrator tell his side of the story, and the judge make a total decision from right there.
Is that considered the temporary restraining order, or is that a permanent restraining order? The one you just speaking of.
It's temporary, because what happens is it's an application process that you filled out, and you check on their different things that, hey, don't want to come to it, don't want them near you within 50 feet, not in the same household, blah blah, a whole bunch of stuff that you sign off on the protection from abuse order. And once you all go to court, the judge decide at that point, from hearing both sides of the story, if both parties show up, what will take place and what will not take place.
KP, you got anything you want to ask or add?
No, this is a deep subject right here, because I think Darren asked what be the mindset of the, I believe, did you say perpetrator?
Yeah, well, the suspect or the perpetrator, the one that committed the offense, yes, or being arrested for the offense. And don't get me wrong, there's sometimes when both parties are arrested, but we just going to use the example for one party for right now.
Okay, and then for me, it would be the environment that they have come from. It's a learned behavior, almost to say, they've seen it, and so they feel like that's the way it is.
That's a true statement too, because I've read where domestic violence is a learned behavior, as you say, a learned behavior from seeing it happening to either mom or dad as they grew up. I have read that this is passed on, even being a victim. of the abuse is being passed on also.
So if we're trying to get people help pertaining to domestic violence, and we're talking about the perpetrators that are doing this, what type of help? Because once again, African Americans, especially African American men, have a very, very big problem with seeking any type of help, especially when they're talking about any type of psychiatric help. They feel like any type of psychiatrist or psychologist that they're going to see makes them out to be crazy, and that's the one thing that nobody wants to be labeled as. So, how do we get people this help unless it is through the judicial system?
Well, Mike, you bring a very interesting point. Getting help at this time, and at this time, I guess you could say, everyone is even our local agencies, for as Indian Rivers and stuff like that. They were at one time only doing virtual meetings, and I'm not sure if that's still going on or not. But and you're talking about, for me, making reference to the suspect, correct? Or are you talking about the victims?
Well, actually, both of them.
Well,
I think neither one of them want to go and seek any type of counseling. When you mentioned counseling to African Americans, most African Americans feel like that you cussing at them when you say you might need to go seek some help somewhere.
That's true. I mean, that's just like men don't want to go to the doctor, knowing they got some problems going on down below, and they just don't want to go to the doctor, and then it's too late, But but we got to break that cycle. That's what I want us to try to do, is break that cycle to the point that we can feel confident enough to say, hey, I love my wife, or I love my family, and I want to stay with my family. This is what I need to do. I need to seek professional help.
If we can get rid of the stigma that counseling is not a psychiatric help, then we'll understand a little bit better that I need to talk to somebody. I need to express myself so that I don't have that pent up aggression or anger or uncontrolled rage that happens when you don't talk to people.
True. But for the and I'm gonna just say the victim, the actual victim of domestic violence, women and men that are assaulted or whatever, there's resources, there's locations. Like I said, Turning Point here in Tuscaloosa offers a place for them to live. They will put them in a safe place, safe housing, and your kids are welcome. So there are resources to help you to escape to domestic violence situations, and we just got to take advantage of it.
So how do we get those people that are in domestic situations to try to lead these? Because like I said, I know people who have actually been in those type of situations, and no matter who, it can be family members, it can be children, it can be all these people begging and pleading. They can be begging and pleading for them to leave a situation, and they won't leave. Oh, I can handle it. Oh, he won't, he ain't gonna go too far, or he was sorry for the last time, he ain't gonna do it again.
He loves me, or she loves me. Y'all just don't know. I heard stories that just blows your mind, and I'm sitting here and I'm saying, you have a eye that is detached. You're physically detached, and you don't want to press charges. You don't want to do anything. You don't want to testify. And you still want to go back because he's the father of your children.
Mm-hmm.
How do you it's a good thing that the state can bring charges upon people that commit these crimes without. Now, I'm put it this way. In other words, if there's a domestic fight, police come, both subjects is there at the same time, and the officer witnesses and justifies that there's a probable cause for an arrest. Well, he's making that arrest on behalf of the state. The victim do not have to come in and sign a warrant or anything like that because the officer is signing that warrant, and that goes into effect right then and there. Do they want the victim to come in and testify? Yes, but based on the conversation, of course, you've seen with the police on TV. I guess cops and they'll say, "Hey, he came in and he kicked the door in, he slapped me and punched me in the face, bust my lip or whatever," and they'll take a statement from her and they'll take a statement from him and make a justification, probable cause for an arrest, and take the perpetrator in. And I don't want to just say him.
Because I just there's a whole lot of misinformation that goes on pertaining to that type of situation.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the streets, I've heard that if there's a mark or bruise on anybody, the other person is actually going to jail, and that's like a period thing. If there's mark and bruises on both of y'all, then both of y'all going to jail. So that's not even the case at all, is it?
That's is true and not true, because there are certain circumstances where the officer determines who was the aggressor, correct? The primary aggressor, and because I mean, hey, I'm not finna let, I'm gonna just use me and Sonya for example. I'm not finna let her just keep punching me, and me blocking the punches or whatever, and not respond. Mm-hmm. But I've seen case scenarios where home videos has proved who's the perpetrator or the primary aggressor. Of course, every officer needs to make sure, and this comes with training, that they just don't take the female side based on the fact the female might be 4'7", and the man 6'3", 250. That don't mean she can't throw a mean punch and cause some damage now.
Yes, absolutely. I'd have been hit by a little girl. My mama little. So I get that, and I think that's the whole entire thing of because I know, and this is some stuff that happened some years ago. We called the police on a person because he was beating up on a friend of ours, a young lady. She would never do it, but they go over there and she have black eyes and everything, and they wouldn't take him either. And we were trying to figure out what was going on with that. So I guess that's why I was asking that question.
Okay.
So we were about ready to go over there and check him out, honestly. Me and some other people that we thought better of, because if she wasn't going to go anywhere with police, if we had jumped on him, then we probably would have wound up in jail. So that's why we thought better of
it. There's scenarios where the family get involved or friends get involved with domestic violence situations. I guess a good way is, I think you have to handle it in a more patient status. I think instead of taking sides, you kind of communicate, listen. Let's listen to seeing what's the problem. Now I can't justify Mike punching Tanya in the eye. I ain't gonna. Man, you're wrong. That's gonna be my first thing. I mean, Tanya is only 5'10", 125 pounds, wet and dry. But I can't justify you punching her. But I can say, hey, you could protect yourself from it. Now, if the police is called and circumstances is that she's being arrested, then so be it. But majority of the time, they don't want nobody to go to jail. It's just they don't want them to go to jail. Something about it, they don't want them to go to jail. But I think if we
So what happens if you call the police in a situation where they fighting? Police come, nobody goes to jail, and they wind up leaving together.
if they
Later on that night they get to fight again.
Mike, if the police is called and there's evidence that a fight has taken place, someone's going to jail. And it could be both or just one. But somebody, and that protects that officer too, because here's what happens. When that officer goes to that call and determine that, okay, Shalonda got bruises on her arm where she can show where indentions are around her wrist area or around her bicep area from where he was either shaking her or throwing her or tossing her around. And he can say, hey, I was just trying to hold her back. But at the same time, when you have somebody saying he got scratches on his face or around his neck, now the officer got to make a good determination of what happened. Somebody's going to jail. And sometimes there's scenarios where both parties can go to jail. They don't like to take both parties, but determining the primary aggressor. And what I mean by that, there's what we call defensive wounds, and there's offensive wounds. Defensive wounds, as I was saying, if the guy explained that, hey, I was holding her by her biceps, that's how she got my fingerprints indented into her arms. But you can see where the guy had scratches in his face, around his eyes, around his mouth. It appears to me that this person might be that other person might be the primary aggressor. Every scenario is different. Every scenario is different. But especially when weapons are involved, it's definitely when it's gotten to the point where both parties need to let it go. But that's my baby daddy or that's my baby mama. Man, she tripping, man.
Yeah, it could be a funny situation because I remember a situation where police were called to a home and these people used to get into it all the time. And it's like sometimes it would be the same police officers, and sometimes, like you said, Dale, they would try their best not to take them because going through the system and all that, and they would still end up back together. So it was like a little, I guess time, money wise, it's time, and they still end up together. But and it was this one time where there were nobody had any visible wounds or anything, but the policeman was kind of in a funny situation because, like you said, it can be dangerous for them. And then as far as at work, will they get in trouble if this or that happens? The young man was like, she let this grease get hot for me. And and so the officer was like, so you sitting here because you could probably believe that people have got burned with boiling water, people have gotten burned with grease. But at the same time, she is at home. She could be cooking. So what do you do? There are no defensive wounds. It's been, it's some huffing and puffing, and it's you could tell it's been a chaotic situation. But is she trying to prepare a meal for her kids and he just won't leave? Like she's saying, I'm not frying no grease from here. I'm getting ready to cook my fries. But she probably was doing it, wasn't gonna throw it on him, but doing it in a threatening manner. So sometimes it's just the threat of it. But this officer's trying to figure out, okay, this is her apartment. Is she just about to cook and he won't leave? Or is she about to try to throw this on him? Maybe he won't leave because he don't want to leave the kids. Because a lot of people say, well, why he didn't just leave? Well, they had kids in the home. So sometimes it gets real, real funny with what's going on. And it's just hard for officers to determine. Another situation, pregnant young lady was out here at the Shell gas station. Young man had scratches all over him, shirt ripped to shreds. She had nothing on her. She went to jail.
That's the case scenario. Now there has been cases where officers respond to, I guess you could say a domestic dispute, as they call it, a domestic dispute where nothing has happened. Um, Loud talking back and forth, threats toward, well, we'll just say, you ain't gonna do nothing to me. Oh, you ain't gonna do nothing to me. Calling names, outbursts, being disrespectful toward one another, but no threats or no kind of physical contact taking place. They call that what we call, Mike, and that might be what you're talking about. That's a domestic dispute. But then later on, this domestic dispute, and what officers try to do is to get one party in a domestic dispute to leave to let things calm down. But here's the thing, you don't have to. But if you don't, then you know it's going to continue until the boiling point of somebody going to say or do something that you get to that boiling point, and next thing you know, you're in a domestic violence situation where you got to go to jail. Once again,
so a dispute means that we just gonna ask y'all to leave, but if you don't have to leave, then it can go ahead and escalate up, and then you might call the law back out there.
You might have to come back. That's correct. So it's written up this time as a domestic dispute based on both parties saying, "Oh, he was hollering and screaming at me because I was on the phone texting somebody. He think I'm texting another man, or she think I'm texting another woman, and he grabbed at my phone and I wouldn't give it to him, stuff like that." But guess what? If he grabbed the phone and took it, and you hurt your finger, I've seen some crazy arrests. I've seen some crazy arrests behind domestic violence. Now they got you for harassment, possibly even theft. Yeah.
That's an interesting way of getting it, really. It's very interesting.
But yeah, this past weekend incident, and I'm glad I looked it up. The capital murder charge is based on the fact of in the presence of a child under the age of 14 that the killing took place in, and that's why the capital murder charge. And from my understanding, the child is now in stable condition, which is good.
But still, the fact is, she shot that man while he was holding the child, and I think that's how the child got hurt in itself.
Mike, we don't know what the state of mind was at that point in time. Right now, we don't even know what happened. Was she protecting herself? We don't know.
How long has she been in that? Those are questions that need to be answered.
Did he grab the child? Because holding the child, you can grab a child and still be considered holding the child.
53-year-old, 25-year-old.
Well, now once again, the on the news they said that he actually had custody of the child. She didn't even have custody of the child. So I don't know if she came to get him, she wanted him, or wanted the child, he wouldn't let the child go. That could have been, it's all speculation at this point because they haven't given us anything else to go on.
Right.
But the thing that I was in my mindset was, and when I heard this story and I heard it on Sunday night, I was like, I don't understand why would you even take a shot with your child in his arm?
At the house, period, and you out somewhere else, the child is near him. That was wild. I was like, so that's why I guess like they said, you don't know the mental state, because my thing is, even if the man got custody and my child is anywhere near him, I'm not shooting. Unless something is going on like unless something's going on with her.
It's going to be interesting. They will display a deposition later on, so it's going to be interesting to read the deposition of what initially been said or gathered as far as evidence to make that decision to charge her with capital murder in this particular case.
And like I was discussing some Mello and myself was talking about some stuff. And this domestic violence stuff, and although they're not cohabitating, but they consider themselves to be in a relationship at young ages. We talking like 15, 16 years old.
Mm-hmm.
You got some guys out there who already have that mentality of putting their hands on and some girls who put their hands on their boyfriend.
Yeah.
Right now. So I don't foresee that doing anything but being more enhanced as they get older. I think that it's gonna get worse as they get older.
It can, Mike.
But that comes back to what Mike said. What do you do? And basically, the only thing you can do is education. But are they going to be present for it? You have to demand. Does the law have to get involved to make it happen? With the threat of being locked up, how do you educate them? How do you get them? Like I said, sometimes they don't come to court. How do you come to education as a way of you not going to jail? Just like they have you taking classes for most other things that you do. If you don't want it on your record or you want to get another chance to get a clean slate. As far as that type of situation goes, how do you educate? Because like you said, if they're that young, 15 to 16, they most likely have that because they've watched abuse, been abused, watched abuse, or just witnessed it.
Yep.
Their parent was abused or they were abused, and they didn't have to be the abuser. The people who are abused become that way because they become violent. They get a violent tendency. So what are you going to do to remedy that? To try to get them to go the other direction.
I guess the point that we're trying to make is, especially if they don't see that as being wrong, because that's how they grew up. If they grew up in a household where that was going on, and mama stayed there the whole entire time. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's probably what I'm supposed to be doing as the man. Or if the young lady who's taking that, mama used to take it all the time, so maybe that's how you're supposed to be a good woman to your man. And they actually go and look for people like that. They don't want, if you don't do that, they consider you to be too nice.
Yeah.
But you know what, y'all, I was watching a show last night, and kind of like some of this what we're talking about, it goes in a circle with all types of incidences. I saw this young lady, she lost her baby. And the guy that she in a relationship with, she was so hurt because she already suffered from anxiety because she's a mixed child, grew up with a white mom and a black dad, and that divorced when she was 3. So she was in the house with another white child. Her mom married a white guy. So she faces anxiety and depression a lot. Well, this young man, he was raised in a house where, stop that crying, boy. You keep on, get something to cry for. So when she was going through it, after she called him and said that she had the miscarriage, his thing was like, well, all right, I'm fixing to go to the gym. And he knew it was wrong. He felt it was wrong, but he said he didn't know how to handle it. He said she already be depressed. So do he keep talking about it and harp on it? Because where he was raised, you just, okay, you weak. Come on, even if they didn't so much say you weak, is keep on crying, you don't cry for it. Get up, come on. You ain't got to, that ain't it. You just, it happened, let's go. So he don't know how to help her deal with her depression from her miscarriage. By just being there, because he's been told, man up, don't cry, that kind of stuff. So it happens in a whole bunch of different situations, like with the domestic violence, just with day-to-day life, even when it's not something violent. Just how do you deal with those things? And a lot of times, like with what we're talking about now, education with domestic violence. With that particular situation, I guess will be education with mental health and coping mechanisms.
Right. DeAndre X said a lot of it stems from people who have poor communication skills. When they can't communicate, they resort to violence out of frustration or anger, feeling belittled or disrespected. Yeah, all of that falls up under that category of being low self-esteem, I guess you can say, or a man that Just don't know how to
Not dealing with
communicate.
situations that way. Some people, especially our people, we've always been taught we'll deal with it. And then, honestly, just in life in general, what have we always done? What did our ancestors do? They dealt with it.
Dealt with it. Yeah.
It wasn't. They didn't have the facilities everyone had. Right. Some people have anger issues, like DeAndre said.
Yeah. When you mad at that, when you don't come home and you had a hard day, you just taking it out on the first person you see at the house, and because you feel like you're an authoritarian there. At your job, you might be low person on the totem pole. You don't have a dog in the fight. You can't say nothing to anybody. So when you get home, hey, at least I run this up in here, so everything better go the way I want it to go. And if not, then
and you may not even consciously be thinking that way. Like you may not even be saying it to yourself. Oh, I had this, I'm gonna get them hell. It's just that feeling of defeatism. So you get home. Oh, what I say in this house go.
Mm-hmm.
So because you've carried it over, like Mike says, you've carried it over. Like they say, the dogs holler at you. You ain't got nobody else holler at. It may be the dog you see first, or it may be the child. And the child may not do nothing, but just do something, and your patience short by then. So you don't have in your head, oh, I'm gonna take this out what the boss did to me. But your patience are so short by then. You feel defeated by then. This you can control, so you overreact.
Yeah,
management problems.
We don't know how to decompress.
Right.
Yeah, that's just a thing of human nature. Some of us don't know how to turn it off when we leave, because I try not to bring none of that I do at work home, because it can affect how I approach my wife. Because I won't be honest with you. So, some of my supervisors, man, got some evil ways, and so if I don't decompress and leave that, when I close that door to that building and open my car door, I got to be a different person. Is it working all the time? No, but I try to leave what I experienced that day there. I pick it up the next day. When I get there, okay, we back on, but I'm trying to leave it when I come home, so I don't bring. That's why I don't even discuss what I do at work with my wife, because that could trigger, and she'd be like, well, what did I do? I wasn't up there.
Yeah.
And for those of y'all who don't know, KP and myself used to work at Comcast together. Same thing with Keith Porter. So when we get together right now, we'll sit there and we'll go back some of those stories that we all went through working for the cable company that only we can talk to each other about, because you can't, the average person wouldn't be able to understand. Like, Derek, I'm pretty sure you do that with other police officer friends.
Mm-hmm.
That you can talk things with.
Yeah.
You wouldn't come home, you wouldn't bring it home to your family. The stuff that you had to see or had to do as a police officer. Same thing with a cable technician.
Yeah, but you know what? That's
being a nurse.
Yeah.
Veronica, you know what I'm saying? It's just some things that the job, you don't want to bring it home to your family.
And sometimes, y'all, we have a support system and don't even know it, because like what you just said, Mike, we won't understand what you and KP go through. We won't understand what Darryl go through. And a lot of people, if they pause a minute and think, well, wait a minute, I got coworkers I'm real cool with. This is the support system right here.
Right.
They'll find a support system right there. And sometimes people miss the opportunity, and it's like, you know what? We both go through a lot of the same stuff here. And sometimes that can be the support system. Now, if it's a person that's causing you the problems at work, that's one thing. That's one thing. But if it's like kind of like a supervisor type thing, or if it's just this one common person, don't have to be a supervisor, and everybody kind of always get rubbed the wrong way by that person, y'all got a support system right there.
Yeah.
Because like I said, you don't want to tell your wife, you don't want to take that home. And a lot of times, a lot of husbands expect, or wives expect you to say, well, how was your day today? And sometimes some people, depending on their occupation, it's like that's the last thing they want to hear, because it brings it back, it sparks it back up. So now I see why, like a lot of times now people don't want to talk about their job. Sometimes some people, like Dion says, it's like communication. Sometimes the wife thinking, oh, he just don't want to, talk to me. He always like that. Or the man could think that about his wife. But a lot of times people don't even want to discuss what is happening. They want to put it down, lay it down, and then, like heard a man on Facebook say, pick it back up when they're on their way to work.
Yeah.
Or not even on the way, but when they get there.
When they get there, yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, we used to go up in Walmart where we used to want to take our Comcast shirts off. So as soon as you step up in there, you work for Comcast. Listen, this was during the time when hey, you remember the DTA transition?
Oh yeah.
The DTA transition was when we had to go and put all them little boxes in everybody's house. And you step in any store with a Comcast shirt on, and we had just changed from Comcast to Xfinity. And all of a sudden now we had people telling us, you know what? I like Comcast. I can't stand Xfinity. And we were like, it's the exact same thing. Exactly. No, it's not. I ain't had no problems with Comcast. And now we got to sit there and have a 20-minute conversation about it's just a name change. And we had to put the boxes in there because the government made us do it. And it's like we the lawyer for Comcast now. We got to explain to them, hey, I ain't gonna have to come to your house and put that little box in there. They made me have to do it.
Right. Yeah, because from my understanding of it, Xfinity is basically a trade name of Comcast. Yeah, it's used to market the services.
That's exactly.
So it's the same thing, but it's just basically a trade name for it, kind of like a drug. Loyalty out in your car.
5% of Tuscaloosa wasn't trying to hear none of that when we had to do it. We come up in the break room every morning, like, man, do you know what I had to go through yesterday? And we like having war stories because of that. So that's what I'm saying. Like, as far as stresses, everybody got stresses on their job. Every job, no matter how much you might like your job, because I really truly love my job at Comcast. There was politics behind some of the stuff that nobody liked. Policies and stuff like that. You're like, I don't even understand why we're doing this. But that's a stress of a job, and if you don't have a way to release that stress, and you don't take it home with you, that the first people they're gonna get is your family. Mm-hmm. And that was was a long way of getting to that particular point.
And then don't stop at the grocery store and the bag boy bagging stuff wrong, because I ain't gonna lie, I have to catch myself. Something else on my mind. Why am I snapping? Yeah, my eggs don't need to be in there with my milk. But I'm probably snapping because I had a long day.
I was going to ask, I think being a nurse and being a former officer, y'all dealt with a whole lot. K was one facet of it, but y'all have to deal with people, and so I was like, how do you cope with, what you do and relieving your stress?
I go first on that, Ron. A lot of time I could relate, Mike, to what was going on in a household. I worked a lot of times, of course, in the African American community, and I can relate to what I saw or what I seen and what was going on at points in time. But it gets frustrating at some point in time when you're helping, like that officer we showed from Northport. I could relate to him getting frustrated because you're trying to help people and they out there doing something totally different than what you're trying to do and help.
Right.
But I guess I always had a listening ear. And that's why a lot of times you'll find me just listening to everybody on the program, because by listening, I can learn. I learn how to communicate with other people, and that's something I always had. True patience, and always been a good listener. I mean, I think I had more. I ain't got no degree in psychiatry or social work or anything, but people for some reason just just found me to be a person for a listening ear. It could be a total stranger sometimes. And that conversation somehow strikes up and looking for a person to just listen. And so that's always been me. I can't say I always brought it home. I might have told some stories, but as you say, and I see one of my coworkers on the program with me, every morning there was kind of like a deprogramming opportunity for us when we're getting off. We'll find we would find laughter on every call. On you know, on certain calls you went to, man, just to kind of deprogram yourself. Found a reason to say, oh, let's help this family, or this family household burned down. We really knew how they felt, that they need instant help. They don't need to wait months from now. They needed people that could say, hey, we need a place to stay right now. So, you know, not that was a funny moment, but it was an opportunity to just say, hey, we can relate to what's going on in the community and the families and all that. I guess you can say just help the resources.
It changes your perspective from being stressed out to wanting to be a help or you know,
exactly
point direction. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, you got to find that humor in a lot of stuff too. Like I said, in the morning time, we had to meet up at the office in the morning time. We were sitting at our break room, sipping on coffee and telling basically war stories from the day before, and finding humor in the stories that we had, or what some stuff that we even found at people's houses. And when you go into other people's houses, they domain, you find stuff.
Oh yeah.
Not that you're looking for it, but sometimes they forgot to hide it.
Yeah.
And so
I didn't hear. That was a 2-part question. I didn't mean to cut you out, Mike.
No. Veronica, you got to answer your phone.
You know, y'all, I'm not gonna lie. You know how they say you should be able to treat your family way better than everybody else, but it's really the opposite. You should, because you do love them, but you're more comfortable letting yourself be yourself in front of your family. So sometimes when you at work, you have more restraint because you know this pays the bills, this takes care of me and my kids. If I mess this up, I can get another job, but do I really want to lose it right now, or do I want to get it on my term at times instead of being fired because I popped off? Because I had the habit of I will pop off, and but being a nurse, you just can't be risking your license like that. Because once you become a nurse and you go from their 1 pay grade of the department store to making what a nurse makes, you're thinking about your family. So it is real stressful sometimes for a lot of people in the medical field or service jobs, police officers, medical field, ambulance, EMTs. They go home and they be a little bit more frustrated with their family. It's not that they're more frustrated with them, but they're easily frustrated with them because they can't fire them. You know, they can't, you know, your supervisor can fire you. Other people on the job can cause you to be suspended, lose days of pay, and things like that. But your family, the ones who love you the most and the ones that you love the most, you would tend to snap off on them because your patience are shorter with them, because it's almost like Mike said, there's your domain. But sometimes it's not really even that. It's just that you don't, those people out there in the street don't have to forgive you. You don't have to forgive them. But you know your family most likely will. And it's not that you say, oh, they're going to forgive me so much snap. It's just that that's a comfort zone there. Be it in good times or bad times, it's more of a comfort zone. So you're more willing to be yourself. So what I had to do is being a nurse, because I'm not just dealing with patients. I'm dealing with some patients that have two children, and a husband or a wife, or some aunties, one or two sisters may come around, or brothers, to somebody who has 13 kids that are all grown, and they got maybe 20-some, 30-some grandkids, and they ain't getting along with what they want for mama or what they want for auntie. So we playing negotiator, we playing nurse, we playing negotiator, we playing being the accused. Some don't go right, the nurse that did this. You know, we have to go through a lot. So that's why we're really frustrated sometimes. And that's why a lot of times nurses look to get out of things like the ER, or if they've been doing mental health, they'll try to find something else, or they'll go from a different shift. Even though they may love their shift, you come home, they'll go on night shift because it's less quiet, it's more quiet, it's less administration. So I just started, to me, exercising it gets your endorphins going, the good endorphins. It just kind of mellows you out some. And then there's just certain other things you have to do. And sometimes it's just, some people never find that thing. They just try to deal. They just try not to. They try to decompress as best they can. They really don't find a way, because especially sometimes their schedule don't allow them to find a way. Because some people acknowledge and they know my patience too short for my kids. My mom can sit here and do homework with them all day. I can do the homework and I want to do the homework with them. But as soon as something ain't going right, I'm already kind of, on edge or trying to unwind. And then next thing you know, I'm fussing. My child don't deserve it.
Right.
So it's a lot of times you have to try to find ways. What I did, instead of working a 5-day-a-week schedule, I did it where I worked 4 days, because I saw that 64 hours a week qualified you full time in the state of Alabama. So I'm like, okay, I don't have to have these 8 hours. Yeah, I'm a nurse. I don't need to be making all this overtime. I never been one of those nurses that went into it for money. Like, I don't have to have all these cars and stuff like that. So I just want to take care of my family. So that's my thing is, if I snap on these people at work, like sometimes they will make you do, or some of these families, like I see you coming in, you got some families good as gold. Sweetest thing, they like family to you. Then you got another family, 13 of them, and 13 want to do 13 different things. Then they got conflicts within the family that they're bringing in there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, you start learning to count to 5. Next thing you know, you got to count to 10. Next thing you know, you might have to count to 20. At work, but sometimes in nursing, it can get just that rough. And then you have other people at work who are undermining. In nursing, the field of nursing is like dog eat dog. We need nurses all day, every day. But it's one of those fields where it's one of the messiest fields. All jobs have mess, but it is one of the messiest fields. And sometimes, you got good crew, they got your back, you got their back. And sometimes you got crews where it's like, everybody want to argue all the time. Everybody want to fuss all the time. And then we already deal with these family members. So you really do have to find a lot of ways to try to leave that stuff at the door of the facility that you're at. And maybe take an hour before you actually go home. If your drive home is 20 minutes, go to the store. Even though you need to get home, get dinner started, get homework, and get football and all that stuff, go do something maybe from 3:15 to 4:15 to kind of decompress and unwind, and then go into your home routine. So sometimes I would walk, I would do aerobics exercise, or do something. And some days that didn't even help, but a lot of days it did. So you have to kind of start somewhere. You have to just do what works for you.
Right. Linda Owens said, I work at HR operations. I have become a listening ear, a calm before the storm. Before I escalate to the next level, I listen, calm them down, and then move them on up to the next person. But at 4 p.m., DCH is turned off until 7:30 a.m. the next day.
Amen.
Yes. Yeah, you have to find a way to do that.
Okay, you had another question.
Oh no, that was it. I wanted to hear from them too. We've been on the same platform, so I just wanted to hear from a different perspective, other than where we came from. But yeah, I really appreciate y'all sharing that, because when we're talking about domestic violence, but the root of it is a lot of different variations I come to get on different individuals and causing us to act out a certain way. So we have to find that common ground. So.
You're right. That common ground of what causing the issue. And then I responded to some situation where they're young and immature relationships, I guess you can say. And and I was using the text thing as an example. He up there texting another woman, and she up there texting another man, blah blah blah. And you gotta ask yourself, okay, are y'all really in a relationship, or is it that y'all still in high school doing a girlfriend boyfriend type thing?
Right. Right.
The sad thing is, them people that were, that got into the texting culture, they getting to be adults now, and so they still in that culture where they text everything. And we did a show last night on Battle of the Sexes about our social media status. if you are on a status and you forgot to change it from in a relationship, how that starts a whole argument between two people. So that's where it is now. I mean, like literally, there's a lot of people out there. If you don't change your status on Facebook, you know what I'm saying? They feel like you trying to find another person. And most guys don't even think about that status. Matter of fact,
And I was just gonna say, I was saying the same thing. I don't even go into that personal profile of that part of Facebook. I really don't. I use Facebook for this advertise. This is probably one of the cheapest form of advertisement and communication of many people, many different personalities, different races that you can use. I mean, where else can you talk to 12 other people right now at the same time that might have the same mindset or have a different opinion of what you have, but still come to a common ground of we want to solve or try to help resolve someone's domestic domestic violence situation. Where can you do that?
And do it for free.
And
then you wonder why Facebook was talking about charging sometimes.
That's right. That's right. They want to charge because look, we share a lot of valuable information that you got. That I mean, if you really just listen, and the people that I have coming on Thursday, we do have another a guest gonna start. We will have guests start coming up, but this Thursday, you know, there's a lot of valuable information that we share that you can learn it by reading yourself. But what you want people to learn something, us especially, put it in writing. We ain't gonna read it. So we're sharing that part that people don't want to read or learn about, and we telling them how to pick up this valuable information. And don't think a lot of people don't listen. I've been in situations in stores and other places where they listening and say, y'all be on there talking all the time. Sometimes I see y'all on Facebook talking all the time. Y'all be talking. Y'all got a good thing. You know, some people see it as, you know, a good thing. It's valuable. And that I see it as very valuable. Free.
Yeah. Even if people don't call in or comment, sometimes they listen. And sometimes that's just the thing. Like DeAndre said, it's the communication. Sometimes people are reluctant to communicate because that's not the way they were brought up, or they're ashamed or embarrassed to. But you don't always have to tell your personal information to be a part of the conversation.
Right.
And that's when things start to, you know, hopefully things start to get better by having conversation and communication. And then maybe somebody like Darryl said he has a listening ear. Some people just do. And you might be that person where like once you get off work, you're dealing like a lot of different people too. But somebody see you, they just may be drawn to you, don't know you from nothing, but might tell you their life history or what they went through that day. And you stand there, you listen. You may see somebody like me. Yes, I'm a nurse, but am I going to have such more of a listening ear than you? I may not. Because like I said, I've been listening to tons of families all day. And you know, you've been encountering tons of people all day. But I've been having to try to make sure I get this injection the right way, do this the right way, keep these people from arguing. Then the nursing assistants and the LPNs, making sure, you know, they not being kids at work. You got to make sure the people doing their work. So, and it depends on my day, and it depends on your day. But some people just in general, and I think like Darryl said, you have that listening ear in general. It's probably you could be doing something and you know you need to be doing it, but your demeanor, your body language makes that person feel like they can talk to you for an hour about it. And you may really need to be somewhere an hour ago, and you may listen to them for 30 minutes to an hour.
Yep. There are scenarios like that.
Yeah, I think that's the reason why they have some people that have the those like little focus groups and stuff like that to so that you can decompress. And perhaps maybe we need a few more of those going around here in Tuscaloosa. You know, maybe we can have a little bit more group, like a group for nurses when they need to decompress, or I think I got kicked off. But
Yeah, you got
Yeah,
kicked
all,
out.
all of, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. You
Okay,
got kicked
I
out,
hear
brother.
both of y'all. I can only see Daryl on my laptop, but I hear both of y'all.
Right.
Yeah, I think I got kicked off. But yeah, that's with that being said. I think that's the whole entire thing. I think we can probably do a little bit more about trying to have some sort of focus groups so that we can actually get people involved.
And when things get better, I mean, I wonder will people come, because a lot of times when we start things, we never finish them. It's like, and then it's not that we don't finish them because we don't want to. Sometimes you don't get participation.
Right.
And I know that there are people that need to have certain conversations.
Right.
Like I said, they don't have to even say that it's them. They can say it's a friend. They can say it's a family member. Let people assume what they want to assume, because people don't assume anyway. You know, it could be you could bring the person with you, that person is sick there, and they can say, yes, it's me they talking about. But people gonna assume it's you anyway. So I just think like right now with the numbers the way they are, it's getting that hard to meet again. You know, at one point it was getting a little easier to meet, but you could even have, okay, this time we'll just have 10 and we'll have it at the McDonald's Youth Center. You know, you just have it where you know you can be spaced out, you know, adequately. And I just think if we get the participation, it'll continue. But some people are still so reluctant. My thing is, how do we get people to stop being so reluctant to participate? And because you can't stop people from talking, you can't say, well, because that's the thing. If they weren't so afraid that people will run around and put their business all over town, that's the situation. And see, sometimes some business you shouldn't really even mind because we all grown now. It's not like you teenagers. You should want to help a person, whatever they're going through. If it's a situation that's weighing on them, society should want to help, but society is still making people feel like they can't share things.
Dion just said the city schools extended their mask mandate to October the 6th. So
Okay.
So instead of, I think what the 10th was our deadline, so they extended till October the 6th. Thank you, Dion, for sharing that information with us. DeAndre said that is trust, something relating to trust.
Right. But you know what? Those kids in Bessemer at that high school, those kids performed that peaceful protest by walking out because they wanted masks. And the administration is not punishing them because they say that what they were doing is for the greater good. You know, whether you agree with masks or not, it was peacefully done. They didn't suspend anybody. Nobody had to worry about getting F's for that day or whatever. That's because they said that showed them with students being willing to walk out in this class like that. That showed in an organized way, they showed them that they needed to revisit the mask situation or revisit the situation in general. So, you know, you got kids up there in Bessemer and they're sparking the conversation amongst the adults. The conversation is being had, but it took those kids to walk out. I think it was Bessemer High School, one of them, to do a peaceful walkout.
Well, you got
and then their issues
are addressed. They have a lot of kids right now that are having COVID-19 and teachers. As a matter of fact, I think in Greene County they lost 2 teachers to COVID already.
A friend of mine told me that.
Yeah, so you know, for the I'm interested in knowing what Tuscaloosa County is looking like pertaining to who has COVID and whatnot, because you know they're not going to tell you the number in the county school.
I'm in a group mask. What is it? Right, I'm in a group mask and protected. Mike, I don't know if y'all know that group, and it's like something on there every day about what's going on with the county system. Those people are frustrated. They're frustrated with the leaders. They're frustrated with the county board. Every day somebody's talking about their child this or their child that, or they're, you know, getting letters but not saying who the contact is. Okay, you know you can't say who the contact is. Sometimes the contact happened that week. They get the letter on Friday. Well, sometimes your kid forget to give you the letter if you working and you don't get to the letter till Sunday. You know, so it's just not really organized. And my thing is, I think what people are trying to do is trying to say, well, it's just going to have to be, it's just here. So it's just here. But there still needs to be something done because UAB nurses walked out yesterday.
Yes.
Enough nurses were there to take care of them because see, now you're getting a conflict. Kay Ivey just reallocated $12.3 million to have qualified nurses to come in. Okay, well, what about the nurses? Because 9 times out of 10, those are going to be traveling nurses. So what about the nurses that are here? Even if it's temporary, like I was having this conversation with a lady, she was like, well, DCH won't pay, and they know they don't have to pay, they don't have any competition. In Birmingham, they got competition, but they don't pay that much better. Well, Birmingham people, unionized or not, those nurses aren't unionized. They walked out. They made sure that there were enough nurses on staff, but the nurses walked out the other night, and they were protesting. Because and it's upsetting. You get a nurse that comes from California, and guess what? Some of the ones in Alabama going, my friend just went to Honolulu. You're making $55,000 a week, but then you at home getting maybe $1,000 your check every pay period, maybe $2 something. But then they're paying traveling nurses, and this was even before COVID. So DCH has contracts where they pay those contract nurses, and they'll say, "Oh, they don't get insurance." Well, making $5,000 a week, they probably pay for their insurance, and you paying what you paying, and then those people that work for you have to pay for their insurance, a big portion of it as well. So now nurses are getting frustrated because it's starting to cause conflict. Nursing is already short. They walked out at UAB because it's like they're getting traveling nurses in, and they're doing the same thing. Sometimes you're even having to train them to your facility because traveling nurses are supposed to be able to land and hit the ground running, but you still have to train them a little bit. But this nurse is getting $30 to train somebody who's getting $50 to $75 an hour, plus living stipend, car accommodations.
And I ain't gonna keep you long on that, but in other words, what you're saying, these traveling nurses had the same credentials you have, correct?
Right.
But getting what, 2 times, 10 times more money than you do in a week's time or a month's time.
Darryl, I had a couple of friends who went to New York. 3 of them went together. One of them contracted it, and she was okay, thank God. So she had to quarantine for a while. But one of them came back and paid off her house out of a 13-week contract.
Let me see. I guess I'm gonna get to this point. The city has what they call auxiliary officers, which is officers that work in the schools, and the officers are APOS certified. In other words, they still have arrest power. They still perform the same duties as a law enforcement officer. But they just work in school. They retired. A lot of them are retired. Not all of them, but some of them. But they still have their same credentials. So, listening to the budget hearing the other day, they want to do away with the job. Now, you're only paying these officers $31,000. But you want to eliminate their position and pay someone $55,000 to go do the same job that these guys doing. What sense do that damn make? Oh, excuse my language. What sense do that make?
Crazy. It's crazy. And see, the lady that I was having a conversation with, she couldn't get what the point I'm making to her. Well, we got to unionize. We got to. I said, ma'am, I'm not talking about long term. Yes, that's an issue that needs to be addressed. But what I'm talking about right now is like what these ladies are walking out on the job for. And she was a nurse and she couldn't get it. But I don't think she was saying, you got a regular nurse, because she was a nurse practitioner making more than me. I said, yes, because if you have your 2 to 3 years experience is what most of these agencies ask for, and you're usually working with somebody out of Georgia or some other state. If you have that experience, and you can go, you can't just be non-experienced, but sometimes they're non-experienced because they straight out of school. You know, you can train a young person who hadn't done it because you can train them to do it the way you want to do it. But you got these people and they're coming in and you're training them, or it's your place of work, and you're, like I said, paying for your insurance or part of whatever you're paying. And then you may be, you know, some may be making more than $2,500, but I'll say $3,000 a pay period every 2 weeks. Then you got a traveling nurse that's making almost twice that. So they're getting frustrated because they understand that there's a shortage and you have to do what you got to do. You have to give these people some kind of incentive to come. So that's understandable. But how much of a pay difference is fair?
Exactly.
And we understand the pay difference. You understand it. But how much of it is fair? So roughly, that's almost like some people making $3,000 that live here every day and go to that job. And somebody coming in from Cali, coming in making $6,000. 13 weeks, they out of there. Or they can renew the contract, or somebody else come in there and do the same thing.
Same credentials.
Sounds like you can add another nurse full time for good for what you're paying that traveling nurse. That's
And
just gonna
see,
get us in a week.
right. And see what the lady was telling me, it was, well, no, they pay the traveling nurses. I said, but think about it. Even before COVID, if DCH has enough money to work out a contract with an agency where they're going to pay those traveling nurses, why not pay your local nurses and have more retention locally? Because a lot of local people go to Birmingham, and Birmingham don't pay that much more, but sometimes there are other things that they offer that's more. So why not retain, if you could, like I said, they're these contract nurses or traveling nurses, not all the time, but a lot of times. So why not try to retain the ones that you have? Pay them a little bit more. You don't have to pay them what you're paying a traveling nurse, but pay them more, make them feel more appreciated, and maybe you'll retain more and you'll have traveling nurses even less. Because there's way more for them to contract out than simply trying to retain what they have. But they say people don't want to come there and don't want to work. But see, that means you got to get your reputation. You got to get your reputation back. You got to get a good reputation. Because people don't want to come because they're hearing things. Traveling nurse, they don't care about what's being heard locally because they don't know about it unless somebody happens to tell them. One lady left, and you know how if you work with an agency or you work with the hospital, they say, well, you can come back under an agency, but you have to wait 3 months, 6 months. She left because her husband relocated, came back, making with the agency versus work, like right there at DCH where she used to work. She was like, her husband relocated, so why not come back here and make what these traveling nurses are making? And that's what's a lot of what's going on, the conditions and things like that. So you cause now conflict and reverse between nurses, because even though those traveling nurses will be gone, you have decreased the morale of the nurses that have stayed around and that you did retain and that did stick with you.
So, in other words, now let me ask you this: Can Alabama nurses that work at DCH travel to California and make money?
Yes, definitely. As long as you have that license, that compact license, a compact license means that you can work in several states. Some people don't. Some people just have a license to work in Georgia, like I have a Georgia license. Well, some people, Alabama has now become Alabama for the longest. We're behind on everything. Well, recently, Alabama has finally decided to get the compact license where you can work elsewhere without having to take that state board or without having to apply for that license in that state. You don't have to take the board because you're an RN, but you have to apply for a license. So now you have to pay for a license that costs a little bit more. It's called a compact, and you're able to work in other states.
Learn something new.
And see, that's why it was getting so bad in Texas one time. They was taking people that didn't have the compact. In New York, Cuomo was taking people that didn't have it, and I guess they were fast tracking it or something. Because they needed them so bad, they was using military.
Yeah.
So they some places still needed other nurses asked for nurses to come out of retirement. That's why you have some older nurses that will travel. If they 50 in their 50s, grandkids can get on up, or maybe don't have grandkids, kids or adults. So they decide to travel for a few years.
Makes sense. But
Darryl, let me ask you real quick also.
Sure.
This is another thing that was just mentioned, like this past weekend, of course. Everybody was on the strip. They had a lot of people on the strip, and they took, I think, 72 guns off the strip. One of which was on a 16-year-old person. They took a couple of guns off a 16-year-old. And the city has vowed to increase the police presence from Tuscaloosa Police Department on the University of Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that?
Mike, with the magnitude of people that's out there, man, I've seen or heard of robberies and rapes that happen after these games and different stuff. So I think it's a good idea. I think it'll deter a lot more crime from happening in those vicinities. But at the same time, we still have to address. In other words, why is a 16-year-old still out at that time of night when we have a curfew?
Mm-hmm.
Who's addressing that? Who's addressing that part? Why can't we take that same effort in trying to police our own communities?
Now, that was the part that I was getting to, because when we're saying this, we're gonna take the police officer out of our neighborhood and put them on the strip on the university, especially during home games and so forth and so on. When supposedly, if I'm not mistaken, the university has their own police force, and all this is going to come out of Tuscaloosa's budget to pay the police officers, and University of Alabama is not going to kick in for this extra assistance, if you would. That's why I don't like that part of it at all.
Let me say this, Mike. Those guys deserve every penny they receive. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, like Veronica was mentioning about a nurse making the kind of money that they were making. Those officers then will be making anywhere between $45 to $55, and if you got rank, you'll be making up to about $75 per hour to cover that percentage of safety. But when we say, "Oh, University Manor is bad," or we say Creekwood is bad, or they got a lot of crime going on over there, we don't want to spend one red cent of overtime to make sure we get that community correct. Talk to me.
Once again, I agree. That's part of what I'm sitting there saying. Like,
and one thing that I've read and saw was that some of the owners, the business owners, just complained. Also, finally now, some of the business owners are complaining or have been talking about closing early. So why does it have to be when certain people say it, we're going to put in this extra effort to get 3 times the number of the usual officers? Why not when everybody? Why not wherever the need is greater at the time?
Exactly. Wherever.
Because those 2 places that you got through saying just a minute ago, University of Alabama wasn't doing anything the whole entire summer. That same police force, why you didn't put them in those areas that try to get it under control before you move to another area. If you need to rotate things in and out like that, you're only going to do that for football season. They're not going to stay out there the whole entire time.
No, this 8 ball game this coming weekend, last weekend. You might get one in between away games and then back to football games, and that's the end of it. So by Thanksgiving, it'll be over with. But would you take that same effort and try to police our own community? DeAndre said the UA is a city within the city.
Know what you thought about that, because when I saw that and I heard that, I was like, well, why are they going to, commit more Tuscaloosa Police Department over there on the university, and they don't do that in the neighborhoods that they claim are bad? And it'd be something else if the University of Alabama was saying, okay, well, we're going to pay that extra overtime to those officers so it don't come out Tuscaloosa's budget.
Yeah. You know that you probably hear this if you ask that question to our mayor, that there's a hidden handshake about not being reimbursed for that kind of help on the university. A hidden handshake now. Not a contract, a hidden handshake might be the exact word.
For how long that's supposed to be valid then?
But that
was supposedly something they have way back after Park did.
I mean, that's been for years, and that handshake is still stand for where it's standing at now. That's just like all the overtime that is utilized from the city budget is never reimbursed. It's never reimbursed. They said due to the sales tax and the hotel tax, lodging tax, that's that makes up for the university bringing in all these football games and activities, and they're bringing in people. So in return, y'all could at least pay for the usage of your police force to cover these events. That's basically what they're saying.
But how backward is that, Daryl? Because they make it seem like they're doing Tuscaloosa a favor.
Mike,
and it's actually bringing them just as much revenue as it's bringing us.
Mike, I can't answer that question because some simple-minded questions like you're asking, you got a simple answer for it, but we will never get in return from the people that make the decisions to make that decision. That's and those of you that have been keeping up with the budget, I don't know what they talked about today. I hadn't had a chance, but they was talking about the apartment complexes that have over 200 beds. The 200 beds. They was talking about adding a extra 1 cent or 2 cent percentage to the people of those complexes. It's not a lodging tax; it's some kind of other sales tax or some kind of tax, which would generate approximately $9 million or some up to $9 million to help pay for the public safety. What they call them, I forgot, public safety account, I guess you can say. So in other words, also it was mentioned about adding a $1 sales tax to venues that offer that can hold up to 1,000 people that sell alcohol only. So there's only 3 places in the city of Tuscaloosa that meets that standard: the Amphitheater, the Bama Theater, and Druid City Hall on campus. Those are the only 3 that sells alcohol at the venue. So, do the officers need a raise? Heck yeah, they need a raise. Don't get me wrong. Do I think it's going to increase the amount of people that want to be police officers? Heck no, I don't think so. It's just my personal opinion. Right now, law enforcement has gotten a reputation that people do not want to be a part of. Do people still go to university and take up cut my mind short. Criminal justice? Well, yeah, people still go in criminal justice, but now they're thinking more on a federal level rather than a local law enforcement level. We don't make the decisions, Mike. We don't make the decisions. We have questions. We have some great questions to be answered. But like I said, you got people that got the same credentials, and I was in this position, so I do know what I'm talking about. You have the same credentials as the officer that making $55,000 a year, but you're paying me $31,000 because I'm gonna be risking my life at a school. You don't think I'm worthy of being paid? I'm not saying pay me $55,000, but give me a worthy wage. When the dog, right. when the dog catcher making more money than me, and I'm toting a gun that's risking my life to protect your children or your child, and I'm talking to all your grandchild. Come on, y'all. We can do better than that.
Mm-hmm. We can do. Because I firmly believe in paying according to education and experience. I do, but I believe with certain fields, I don't care if it's entry level. You should be in a really decent pay grade for what you're doing.
Yes.
And it shouldn't be what these people out here that can go and make a plant make. Yeah. I mean, plant workers, don't get me wrong, they should make what they be making. But I'm saying it's certain jobs, being a police officer, plant jobs are dangerous. But I'm just saying you having to carry a weapon. That's the number one thing right there. You're protecting and serving. So there are certain jobs where the entry pay should be great.
Mm-hmm. So, I don't have a problem with them asking for a raise for the fire and police. I don't have a problem with that. I just have a problem with them still neglecting a unit of people that are a part of the police department that's being elected financially with the same credentials. And I keep bringing that up. In other words, they have the right to make an arrest. They have a right to they answer calls based, if their job description was called security officer, Now you're justifying that this person is a person just security. You know your limitations. But when you said in order to get this job, you must be APOS certified, and that's all it takes for a police officer to be a APOS to get APOS certified, well, I expect them to be paid accordingly. Even though they retired, they're doing the job of protecting and serving our school children in our community, and they're being elected because they're already receiving they're already retired. They receiving from the RSA or from the Fire and Protection, their pension they are receiving, and in return, we just figured that they would be satisfied with, we paying their insurance. Listen, when this first came out back here a couple of years ago, the sheriff department, Jefferson County Sheriff Department, was paying officers $41,000. You pay for your own insurance, in other words, to come and work in the school. That was their salary, $41,000. But you pay for your own insurance, in other words, with no benefit package. Well, the city figured, well, we'll give you a benefit package, but we're gonna pay you $31,000.
No. Wow. And that's why you have these people in certain fields going on strike or leaving the field. You already have a shortage, and then the way you treat them makes people want to leave.
DeAndre said the same reason the coal mine on strike. Stavella said that's why she feels being a PCA at these hospitals and we're doing most of the work. We fighting for our life and family. Also, every time we come up in here, that's true. And I listen. I pray for all the essential workers all the time. Believe me, regardless if you're in the laundry department to the housekeeping, because you are going into a war zone, an invisible war zone. Because you never know if it's the touch of another human being or just the touching of a handrail from an escalator that you caught COVID from. No one really never said, of course we had the thing about door handles and gas pump, putting the gloves on, blah, blah, blah. But still to this day, no one knows exactly, is it a cough? Is it a sneeze? Is it touching someone that already has it? Or is it your clothes that you're washing the bed sheets from and putting it back on another person's bed? I pray for all of y'all because I understand you are in a war, an invisible war. You don't know who the enemy is. It can hit you and your family at any given time. And it's not just in the hospital. It's in society too. Deshaun said teachers and school workers are next. Teaching school from home is real. I think he's making reference to teachers and school workers going to probably start walking out too.
I think that might be the case, Daryl. Like I said, when things start happening and they start hitting real close to home, as if like, hey, I'm teaching this person teach right across the hall from me or right next to my classroom, or we used to eat lunch together. We talk, all this stuff. We did a lot of stuff together, and I'm used to seeing them on a daily basis. And they died from this disease. Oh, now it's starting to hit a little close to home. I don't know if I want to be around here like this. I don't think that wearing a mask gonna be all it need to do. And we got all these kids piling up in here.
Well, you had a lot of Mike. You had a lot of teachers that retired, that they're trying to fill vacancies. That experience that we needed in our school system has left.
Yes.
This even in the nursing field, as Veronica was saying, a lot of experience has left due to this invisible enemy, this COVID. Now, I don't see society doing anything what we did in 2020 again. I really don't. I don't see it shutting down. They're asking people to get vaccinated. Some people don't want to get vaccinated. There's people that are catching COVID that has been vaccinated. There's people that have died that has been vaccinated, from my understanding. I don't know I don't know the facts, but they're saying there are more people that are dying that's not vaccinated. So we already debated that. We ain't debated that. I'm not here to debate that tonight. I'm just saying the world that we knew as of 2020 of people staying at home unless you're an essential worker, it's not going to happen again. And people sit at home and collect $800 a week, $3,200 a week that was working part time as a Taco Bell or Taco Casa worker or whoever. And Veronica still got to go to work and risk her life and bring risk of her family, but she's still making her $2,000 or $3,000 every 2 weeks or however they get paid. So I don't see that happening anymore. And I think people
it's definitely not gonna happen anymore because you think that they trying to make sure that everybody don't get the unemployment now. I think has that ran out yet?
It just ended yesterday.
So you know what I'm saying, in all these places that in need of people working, I just foresee in the next week or two, and definitely by next month, we're gonna start seeing all kinds of people looking for jobs because it's going back to that $100, $200 a week type stuff. Unless they have been stockpiling, which I don't see that happening either.
Sylvester said, we're getting ready to walk out also. I can't stand to see these patients suffer because they're not getting enough help. And Len Owen saying retirement is on the rise now.
I see DCS today had a moment of silence for all the victims of COVID. They standing in silence in the hallway. You know, sometimes it's like people are just frustrated. It's to the point of what can you do? You can only do what you can do.
And I want to make
the nurses hold a protest over conditions and pay. They're still talking about that. I guess they're still on walkout as well.
The thing about it is, I feel like DCH as a whole, coming close to having the whole entire place walking out on them. A lot of because they just recently got to the point where they started paying people $10 an hour. And anywhere else you go in the medical field, they was paying at least 10 or better, like level 12. And I'm talking about for nutrition service or housekeeping or escort, patient escort, or anything to that aspect. And DCH, they held on to that minimum wage position for so long, or just a little bit over minimum wage for so long. And people are now saying, look, you see that we're needed here in Tuscaloosa and the surrounding areas, because in surrounding areas have to take on other people at DCH, and DCH still not trying to come off any money for these employees, and they try to give you like a signing bonus, but
right, Mike, that's what somebody said to me yesterday. Okay, $15,000 sign-on bonus. Okay, that's great. But that pay is still what it is because the traveling nurse got that $15,000 they're talking about. That's just 3 weeks of their contract, and then they still getting to $75.
Absolutely. And you think that people don't know about this stuff when you bring these new people in? Yes, they know, and they feel like they're being slapped in the face with it.
The veterans said they need more help than pay. Yeah, because pay, you know, I tell anybody, when you making me have to do 2 people or 3 people job, pay ain't gonna make up for it. Because you ain't gonna pay me.
That's right too, but if you making me do a 2 3 people job, that means that you need to hire 2 or 3 people.
That's correct.
And 2 or 3 people ain't gonna come unless you increase the pay. It's a perfect circle. If you increase the pay, you'll get more people interested in doing it, and you'll have more help.
I remember one nursing home, and LaRonca may have done it when it was open, if y'all remember LaRonca, But I do remember a lot of people didn't like Heritage. But what Heritage would do, if we were in there and we worked short, instead of you work 8 hours, you would get paid 4 of those hours double pay. And that, a lot of people was like, well, it's just double pay, but at least they did something because they couldn't keep people. And this was years and years ago, but at least this was in the 90s. If they could do that in the 90s, all this money they're using on contract workers, like I said, fine, use it because you need it. Okay, I've just allocated $12.3 million. But even if it's temporary, why not give some of that money to these nurses and get a contract with them here? Don't make them have to live 50 miles before they're eligible for the contract work pay. Give it to the people that's local. Let them understand that it's temporary, it's during the pandemic. But at the same time, even after it calms down, pay them more because you can afford it. You've been working with contract before COVID.
But y'all are worth it. Y'all in it, like I said, y'all are in that war zone in and day out.
Every day.
So you definitely.
That's just like being in the infantry. You on the front line. You ain't trying to back up or nothing like that. You right there.
You right there in the heat of it.
Yes.
You're in the foxhole. You're right there in the foxhole with them, boss. And that's no joke. So, but it's always people that determines the factor of what's the value of your experience or the value of your job, the worthiness of you and your family. But you're not even in the heat of this position. You ever notice that?
Right. No, they're in the ivory towers. They're the one who making all the money. They're the one who get bonuses
and the decisions
for keeping for keeping the payroll down. Oh, we understand this much in payroll. You know what? That's good if you didn't do this. Here's the bonus for you, $150,000. You know, like instead of spreading that out to everybody that work in that hospital, you giving those department heads these huge bonuses where they can go out and get their nice things and everything else, and they working their people to death. They try to make those numbers for you.
You know,
and appreciation. And this is good for this one. Appreciation. We're gonna give y'all something to eat.
That's it. We'll bring your plate. We'll bring your plate, and we appreciate you with a certificate saying an appreciation during this
cook out there on the lawn.
Yeah, during this pandemic.
You got to cook out there. I know because I had to do it.
Yes.
You was on the grill, Mike.
I was on the grill.
During this
I had to cook them hamburgers, hot dogs, and Ritos when they was out there on the patio before they closed patio in. Like pass out.
Yeah.
For the whole entire hospital. And y'all come eat free. One time. Unless you work a double, and then you have to have a special certificate saying that you work a double, so you can come back and get you a second plate.
It should be willing to feed anybody for free. They should have been feeding folks walking on the street for free.
Yeah. Pay my people.
Twice a year.
Twice
a year, DCH do that. They do one in the summertime, that's the barbecue. And in the wintertime, during Thanksgiving, Christmas time, they do the holiday feast. And it's the same type of situation.
Hey y'all, check in on us on Thursday. We went over the 10 o'clock curfew hours. check in with us.
Jump me up. We do that
every week.
We get to do that too often nowadays.
Look, Veronica, we was talking. It might be time for a nighttime podcast talk show or something. Around here locally.
Yeah.
I think it'll go really well. Somebody had a nighttime podcast show. But
But Daryl, for most of the Tea Time 411, there is a nighttime podcast.
Yeah.
I think that we discussed it before that we probably need to reach out to more of and let more people know where we at and how to get up with us. And I, what I'm saying, I guess if folks if folks was to like and share episode, let us know how many people actually want to see us on nighttime competition. I mean, talk show. Then we can see what's going on with that.
Yeah, I mean, there's much room for much more advertisement.
Yeah, because you'll be amazed at how many people up at night can't sleep 2, 3 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And I ain't saying that late, but the shows will have to get late. But a lot of times, people, when I'm off, I'm up late. You know, a lot of people, they get up 2, 3 o'clock in the morning because they go to bed real early. Some people, you know, go to bed early, and then they up all night.
Yeah, my pattern is
Some people are at work. People are at work.
Yeah, my nighttime pattern has changed too. When I was working, I would stay up to about 10:30, but now it's like 12, 1 o'clock, and that's during the week. This ain't weekend; it's during the week. Weekends, 2, 3, sometimes even up to 4. I want to mention this before we go. Me and some of my good friends today we went by a brand new, it's a new restaurant downtown. I don't know how long they've been there, and I enjoyed it. It was Urban Bar and Kitchen. It's on University Boulevard. If you get a chance, go by. I enjoyed the food. Somebody says a replica of what was the place over in Northport, the Levy. Yeah, the Levy.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It says it's a replica of the Levy. I enjoyed what I had. This chook steak. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that. The salad. My friend said he tried one of the sandwiches. He thought it was good. So, hey, you get a chance, go by and check out Urban Bar and Kitchen. And guess what? From my understanding, it's African American owned.
Yeah.
African American owned. So go by, support those guys. Want to thank everybody that came out or that witnessed the festival this weekend. Yes, it was a lot of people. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. And a lot of people. Sometimes you might have didn't see the mask on, but as I walked through, there were people that did have masks on, and there were people that were vaccinated. So, yeah.
I know some people get upset when you say to require a mask, but my thing is there are so many people that don't want to be vaccinated that if they're going to gather in large crowds, even if it's outside, they should say the masks are mandated. Some people don't want to hear that, but that should be. You know, I don't know how people think we don't know how to handle it. You have to try somewhere. Nothing worse but a try.
There you go.
Without a try, nothing worse. So when they say mandate a mask before you get in the event, that should be fine.
I like to add on to that we'll see within the next week what it looks like after this past holiday. We had all these football games, these big football games that went on this past weekend, in which all
full capacity stadiums.
Yep.
Full capacity stadiums.
Football, festivals, traveling for family from state to state. So hey, a lot of contributing factors, but hey.
Yep, because you saw what happened after the 4th. I see this one being a little bit higher than what happened after the 4th.
We'll see, Mike. You might be right. We'll see. We'll talk about it again on Thursday. I do have a guest planning to be on the program with us. We can still, if there's anyone that's watching the program that need any resources that you're in a domestic violence relationship situation, you can contact me, and I will get you in touch with people that can help you out of that situation or put you somewhere where you can get more help. So that was our conversation tonight, domestic violence. On Thursday, I got to call my guest tomorrow, and we'll talk with them and see about what their business. They got a new business, so we'll talk with them on Thursday. Hey, y'all be safe, be careful.
I got one more thing for you.
Go ahead.
Come
on, Veronica.
How about that Bryce Young? Again, roll tide.
Listen,
roll tide.
I wasn't gonna say nothing about it. I wasn't gonna say nothing about it. Look, Alabama. I like Alabama. I do. I like Alabama. I can't take nothing away from them. They got a great looking team as of right now, but you overplayed so hard that you lost a couple good players, didn't you?
Lost some good play. That's the only thing about it. You know, that's just like when Florida State lost that boy the first game they played against us. Remember, the first games you just never know what happened. All you can do is pray for no injuries. Because I think one of them, that foot injury, it may be a season or one of those kind of season ending, or either he come back toward the end of the season.
Yeah, Anderson. I think they say it's a season ending injury. And then,
but you know those boys and the equipment they got, they be trying to make it back. If you can get to the SEC championship or definitely the playoffs, they be trying to get in there. Oh, yeah. Even if they don't do but catch a pass, they be trying to get in there.
Somebody said War Eagle and good night. I said, uh-oh.
Hey,
the Eagles choke.
We don't pay no attention to that.
Okay.
We'll
see.
Cook no chickens.
Well, we know y'all. We know y'all can let the third string
play. You gonna send them down to churches?
Wait a minute. This weekend, I know y'all can let the third string play. This week, Mercer.
I want to see Bill Bryant's great grandson.
He came in.
He did. I want to see him play a little longer because they say he's good. They say, yeah. You know, and so hopefully they get him a little bit longer to play.
Okay. Yeah. Talk to y'all on Thursday, y'all. Enjoy it.
Okay.
Great conversation. Y'all have a good one.
Okay. Good night, y'all.
Carmelo, take us out.
Melo probably sleep.
Okay.